Welcome to the Head Shepherd podcast. I'm your host, Mark Ferguson, CEO here at NextGen Agri International, where we help livestock managers get the best out of their stock. Before we get started, thank you to our two fantastic sponsors for continuing to sponsor this podcast. MSD Animal Health is perhaps better known as Cooper's Animal Health in Australia and for their Allflex range across the world, with a comprehensive suite of animal health and management products. Heiniger is a one-stop shop for wool harvesting and animal fibre removal. The Heiniger team have a deep understanding of livestock agriculture, backed by Swiss engineering and a family business dedicated to manufacturing the best. We are grateful to our sponsors for their support, helping us bring Head Shepherd to you each week. And now it's time to get on with this week's episode. Welcome back to Head Shepherd. Great to have you listening along. Busy time of the year, out and about, and recording this intro on the side of the road. Hopefully the audio is okay. This week on the show, we have Saunders. Simon has been heavily involved in the Headwaters group right from its inception and still is. The Headwaters group have bred a lamb designed for the consumer as well as the farmer. It's a great story of really focusing in on what the market wants. So really great chat with Simon Saunders. Before we get on to that, Sophie's written the article this week around the triplets work that's been coming out of Australia, managing triplet ewes and lambs, and obviously really important to get the management right to get a great outcome with those triplet ewes and lambs. Right, we'll get underway with this week's show with Simon Saunders. Welcome to Head Shepherd, Simon Saunders.
Yeah, great to be here with you, Ferg. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Great to have you on, and something we've been looking to do for a while, and finally getting to it. We had a bit of a battle this morning on the tech, but we're here now. Obviously, you're farming down in northern Southland there, and I guess we might start with the journey at Stag Valley and then end up with Headwaters, which is probably the lion's share of what we'll talk about today. But I guess just talk us through Stag Valley and the enterprise down there and where all that all began.
Yeah. So look, Stag Valley's a family farm. Mum and Dad started there in the mid '60s. Just got a little block in behind Lumsden and had 500 hectares, and we've just slowly grown the business from there. Annabelle, my wife, and I came home early 2000s, and we've grown it to it's now 1,400 hectares, running just over 11,000 stock units. A mix of rolling flats to some quite steep hill tussock country.
Excellent. So that's a balance of sheep and beef, still a standard setup? Or?
Yeah. So we run just over 6,000 ewes, Headwaters ewes, and we also run the elite flock. So that's where obviously all the genetic work's done, and we've got a multiplier flock that sits under it to help roll out more rams. And we run about just over 100 Angus breeding cows, and do a bit of heifer grazing, and so that pretty much makes up the operation. Plus, we've got about 130 odd hectares of production forestry spread throughout the farm. Yeah,
right. Excellent. So, I'm going to talk us through Headwaters. I don't know whether it started as a breed or as a company or both, and then obviously into the Lumina product. And it'd be interesting to what came first, the chicken or the egg on all that front. That'd be good to hear the history there.
So very quickly, Headwaters was founded in 2007. Andy Ramsden, who was one of the founders of the Rislington breed line, had moved down south, and he rounded up sort of 13 others that were kind of interested in how we could have a breed of sheep that could do really well in the hill country and high country. At that time, the dairy sector was booming. There was a lot of land use change going on, and 2007 returns from lamb were really poor. Pretty much like we have been for the last few years. And so there was a group of us that really wanted to do something. We wanted to breed a sheep that would probably suit our country a bit better, and also what we could do beyond the farm gate in terms of there was just a feeling that we really need to do something quite different than what had been done. So that's how we got off the ground, and obviously put a huge amount of effort into the maternal side of the breed so we could have a sheep that would go really well in our sort of country, and then began a lot of R&D, and it started really, Ferg, with looking at healthfulness traits. That was our kind of where we felt we could differentiate and do something different in the marketplace. So we did a lot of R&D in those days with Avita, which was a forerunner to beef and lamb genetics, and Alliance were really interested. So they were in the early days a partner in a lot of that R&D work, and from there we did a lot of trial work, and I guess that's where we came to the realisation, using Headwaters genetics on red clover and chicory. We ran about 22 different plots of different forages, and from that out came some really high omega-3 levels and intermuscular fat. So that was really the foundation of what we've built today.
Excellent. So starting with, I think, 4 foundation breeds, was it? Fintex or Romney, something
Yes.
else, bit of
Yeah.
Perindale, was it?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, Perindale. So it started with a Perindale, but yeah, Perindale, Romney, Texel Fin.
Yeah.
So we worked over time to bring those 4 breeds together at a pretty even cross and settled on that. And as you know, when you bring those 4 breeds together, there's a lot of variation and all sorts come out, and that's been it's been a big part of probably the past 17 years from a breeding perspective is just really bringing that uniformity. Obviously, there's plenty of variation from a genetic perspective, which is fantastic, but you've got to have a sheep from a phenotypic and a type that farmers are going to be interested in and do the job that needs to be done. So yeah, it's been a big part of where we are today.
Yeah, we might sort of fast forward to today and then go back through the journey. So I guess where we're at now is a lot of farmers with Headwaters genetics and sending through to the Lumina value chain. Just talk us through where we're at today in terms of numbers and I guess the spread that's gone from little neck of the woods around Lumsden to national pretty well.
Yeah. So we've grown. We've got about 90 odd farmers, both breeders and finishers. This year we'll have 240,000 lambs in a Lumina box, going to all parts of the globe under the Lumina brand. And part of that is obviously the lambs need to be a minimum 35 days finished on red clover chicory. So we've got a lot of finishers. Some of them are breeder finishers, and we've got specialist finishers as well who help finish the product and get it into Alliance. So yeah. That's where we are today. Yeah, it's going really well in market, getting some pretty good returns and a lot of interest and a lot of activity right throughout the world and in the product.
Yeah, and I'll put words into your mouth, but I imagine it's pretty rewarding to be sort of connecting that whole value chain, being part of right from DNA right through to plate. Literally is a pretty. I mean, it's kind of everyone's pipe dream, I suppose, and it's come a long way since 2007.
Yeah, and it is, and for me personally, Ferg, that's one of the great things is now. I used to get so frustrated seeing our lamb go on a truck, and I never knew where it was going, whether actually anyone ever even liked it, or and so I had no idea about where our product was leaving the farm gate. And now, I've been lucky enough to go to a number of different markets and spend time with chefs and just to get that feedback and be connected with them and hearing, how much they love the product and what are their challenges. And so that farmer to end user to chef customer feedback has been one of the real, I guess, joys for me in the whole process that I'm fully connected into where my food's going that we work really hard to produce. And I think that's the same for a lot of farmers. Obviously, getting some, having a more profitable farm system and getting some cash in the back pocket is absolutely critical too. But it's understanding where our food's going and being connected to that is so powerful. So it's been a massive part that I've enjoyed throughout the journey.
Yeah, and if we talk dollars in the pocket, I mean, the beauty of the program is that it actually, people aren't just saying it's nice; they're actually willing to pay more for it, which is kind of the whole idea when you set off on these journeys. It's we go out to find a premium, and obviously that's a big part of success is the fact that, and that's why it's grown, is because you were able to differentiate and therefore find a premium.
Yeah. No, we have, and through working with chefs all around the world, and they love the product. And at the end of the day, it's the product that really that's what sells itself. We've been able to build a pretty amazing brand around that, and that's certainly helping. But it's the product and how it's different from other lamb, and we've been able to get into like the North American market and the Asian market that want a lamb that's a lot more delicate in flavour and no smell, and all those key attributes that we've got around Lumina have really been able to provide us the opportunity to open up a lot of markets there, and they're willing to pay for it, which is brilliant. And so we've been able to extract some pretty good returns from the marketplace and starting to deliver them back to farmers. It's taken a long time. We've got a lot of farmers that have had to hang in there with some pretty small returns, but they've believed in the long term, and we're finally getting to a stage where we're driving some meaningful returns back behind the farm gate and makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, no, exactly. So you mentioned IMF and omega-3s are obviously a couple of key things that did separate your breeding program away early. That was sort of mid 2000 or whatever. Yeah, not long into your journey, you started.
2010, 2015,
Yeah.
when we did a lot of that work, and then as we got a primary growth partnership with the government, which was really how we commercialised all the R&D work that had been done, and the focus then went from probably health, omega-3 to IMF, because it's such a fantastic product for in-food service going into for chefs. So we probably focused a lot less on omega-3 and a lot more on IMF and what we call the PUFAs, the polyunsaturated fats, which gives it that unique mouthfeel flavour. And so that became the real focus in terms of breeding program and delivery into market.
Yeah. There's been, I don't know how many that have tried and failed on this front. Have you got any idea what made it different, as in why you're being successful where others have failed?
I think one of the key things, Ferg, is that we build a whole farm process, like a codified, what we call now a codified farming system. There's no one, obviously for a start, having really good maternal traits, so the ewes perform in a wide variety of farming conditions and environments. But there's no one silver bullet. It's not just IMF, it's not just polyunsaturated fats or controlling pH. It's right across. It's the whole farming system. It's not getting the genetics right, making sure we've got good maternal genetics, making sure that we're nailing all of those key meat quality traits. It's how farmers are feeding their ewes through winter to make sure that the IMF is going to be expressed in the lambs. It's making sure they're on the chicory for 35 days. They're really well fed. They're hitting really tight specs, that we're keeping the stress as low as we can, right through into plant. They get processed and then aged for 21 days. So when you take all of those pieces, and I think that's what's been the key difference, is one set of genetics and then a really codified farming system has allowed us to making sure, because at the end of the day, what the chef wants is they want a product that has got great flavour, but actually more importantly, what they want is just a consistent product. So every box is absolutely identical. So every time they're going to put a really expensive piece of protein, the hero of the plate, out there, they know 100% they're getting a super consistent product. And I think that's the piece that we've probably over a long period of time have really nailed, is that consistent, great tasting product.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all the 1%ers or 0.5%ers that all add up to the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, genetics is absolutely a critical part, but it's not the only part, and if we get that farm system right and we really stick to, and for some farmers that they absolutely love it and they're willing to put the extra time and work in. For other farmers, for reasons, sometimes it just doesn't suit their farm system. They're in a unique environment where they're far better, they can make a far better return without having a chicory red clover. So it works for some and not for others, but it's, it's great.
So if we do talk the genetics, obviously the breeding program is now at Stag Valley, and what sort of numbers are in those ram breeding for? Obviously to supply 240,000, 250,000 lambs, and there's some that there's a few rams having to be produced each year.
Yeah. So the elite, the elite breeding flock is 1,350 ewes. Plus replacements, and then we've got about 1,000 head of multiplier flock sitting under that. Then Burwood Station, the McLean family on the way to Te Anau, they've got a larger multiplier flock, which they've had since day dot, and an outstanding flock there. So that's that provides us with enough scale to be able to produce the rams we need.
So to go in the box, the genetics have to be out of a Headwaters ewe, pure Headwaters ewe. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so first cross. And sorry, I forgot to say, we've also got a terminal flock that we've started about 4 years ago, and so that's sort of a new part of the breeding program. We've still got some work to do there around the meat quality traits in that terminal flock. So those terminal rams can only go over what we call a 7/8, so pretty much a pure Headwaters ewe, just to make sure that we've got enough of those meat quality traits in there. But otherwise, a farmer can join and a first cross, and you're away.
Yeah, right. Cool. I know a little bit about the breeding program. Obviously deploying all the things, it's genomics where possible. Some of the things you're measuring are not very standard traits. So obviously there's been a fair bit of investment in sort of non-standard traits, and they continue to be measured today, I'm assuming, to keep things going in the right direction.
Yep. So obviously, IMF, historically we've run pretty large progeny tests every year, so we can, through wet chemistry, we can collect all that data, and we do some CAT scan, obviously, all the other standard sort of meat yield. So there's all the range of the standard things you'd expect in any reasonably high performing breed flock. But then we overlay that with all those key meat quality traits. And look, there's some really cool technology coming along that's going to help where we may not have to run such a big progeny test in the future, because as you know, they're a fairly large cost to doing that.
Yeah.
So that's they're sort of the key things that we really focus on. Obviously, every ewe is fully DNA recorded, both in the elite flock and in our multiplier flocks as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I guess that is a nice development that's happened fairly recently, is some of these in-chain measures, or even a few live animal measures and stuff that are starting to hopefully be possible, or get better anyway, so we can start less expensive ways of getting the outcome, which would be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to become critical, and we're investing in some of that. Live testing, certainly for IMF, is something that we're working on currently, which is going to be able to speed up a lot of that process, get data so much. You're basically getting data in real time around IMF, and it's going to be a game changer for us, I think, in terms of the focus on that part of the program.
Yeah, excellent. If you sit around the board table at Headwaters, what's the sort of, I don't know, if you look out 10 years, what's possible, or what's your next challenges, or is there, I don't know, what's the future look like?
Look, it's really exciting if you start at the market end, which we've always got to do, because at the end that's what's going to drive the returns. We're not even scratching the surface in terms of the opportunities in the marketplace.
Yeah.
If you think of the top end restaurants all around the world, we've hardly even made a dent. So there's massive opportunities, and it's where we invest, and it's how we develop those new markets and new products. Because at the end of the day, I think there's one of the big challenges in the meat sector, red meat sector, is you've got a whole carcass, and it's, as you know,
Yeah.
You can take the middles, which make up 25%, and the glory cuts, and you can sell them all day, every day of the week.
Yeah.
And that's no different for us. We're obviously we're able to extract more value, but 65% of your carcass of your shoulders and legs and other parts. The real key is how we extract more value from those parts of that. And so we've got a really big program around new product development, because if we can really turn the dial on the margin we're extracting out of a shoulder or a leg into food service and high-end retail, that's what really drives the returns. So it's how quickly we can do that. We're especially in shoulders, we're making great progress into food service, convention centres. I was at the Red Meat Sector conference last night at Tapai, and it's Lumina shoulder on the menu there pretty much every day of the week, and it's such a great product for them, the way that they can cook it and utilise it for large-scale conventions. So they're the big opportunities. If we can nail that, plus there's some really exciting things happening in what you call the fifth quarter, then that the market is massive opportunity. And then at Headwaters we sit there and say, how do we scale? But look, at the end of the day, Ferg, we've got to drive far better returns for farming. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're really focused on. If we want to have a sustainable sheep, ongoing sheep sector in New Zealand, we've got to drive far better returns so we can compete for other land uses. And so we're looking at how, given that we've got one breeder flock and all our lamb goes through the same finishing system, we're starting to get really good data insights. Every lamb's got an EID tag. Every lamb goes into plant, gets the MEQ probe. So we're getting a IMF reading on every lamb and individually, and we can feed that data back into the farmers and start to look at why one farmer's getting much better IMF, and that'll go back to probably how they're feeding their ewes, and so you can start to really hone in on what's the difference in performance between a whole bunch of our farmers in similar environments, and we can really start to change the dial on behind the farm gate ewe productivity and individual performance, and that's where we see the massive opportunities through our program. That's really exciting.
Yeah, there must have been plenty of high fives around the board table when MEQ probe got implemented, so he could start getting individual carcass feedback. It's been that has literally been talked about for 2 decades or more, and yeah, it's great to see it. And in a program like yours, where you can really feed that straight back into and make adjustments on farm and learn from each other, it's a pretty powerful thing, or very powerful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we're going to see more of those sorts of tools come along. And we're starting to build a wealth of data. And so the big challenge for us is how we use that data and how you unlock those insights. And that's something I know you spend a lot of time and talking about. And I think we all realise that's the big prize, but it's how we go about unlocking that data. AI is going to play a massive role in that, but it's a space where if we can get that right, we can make some huge gains.
No, exciting stuff. I guess one of the challenges with what we're talking about, IMF, is that it turns up later in life and at heavier carcass weights, but obviously they're going out in, what's the sort of standard carcass weight that goes in a Lumina box?
We're average this year is 19.5.
Yeah.
Probably see that lift, I suspect, and we're going to incentivise farmers to really try and get in that 19 to 21 range. That's from a food service. That's a nice fit. We don't want to get too large and try and compete with some of the great Australian lamb. We're trying to get in a range there that we know we've had feedback works really well in food service for our chefs. So it's trying to keep that really tight. Yeah, so it's in that range. Yep.
Yeah, there'll be a few Aussies listening wishing they could supply, because it's starting to get hard as the grids keep pushing north or pushing higher in Australia. It's getting harder and harder to hit those carcass specs, because on farm particularly. So which is an interesting change. So it's whereas at that 19 to 22 or whatever, you can efficiently do that on farm without pushing the system too hard.
Yeah. And I guess one of the things that we've worked really hard at, and it's been very challenging, is that whole challenge between growth and IMF. I think you just alluded to it, that if you focus on growth, the animal doesn't have time to lay down the fat, and that takes time. And so that has been a real challenge over the years, and we've probably had to go through periods where we've put a bit more focus on growth, because obviously that's a key driver of any sheep farming system. So that it's taken a long time, and we've had some outstanding rams that have come through that have provided us with the opportunity to probably nail both a lot more than we had in the past. So that has been something that I think we're starting to make some really good progress, but it takes time. It's not easy.
Yeah, I guess 100% it does. But the beauty of your program is that you've measured enough. Like, I guess it is slow and hard, but if you're measuring enough stuff, you can at least find the outliers. Whereas if you're not doing any measurement, you've got no hope of finding them. So, I guess the beauty of the terminal development now is you can take a lot of your learnings from the things that you've done with the maternal and sort of maybe fast track that into the terminal. So that should move quite quickly.
Yeah. And obviously there's not nearly as many traits that you've got pressure on to focus on. I mean, that's one of the great things in a terminal. If you can get survivability and growth, and then we can overlay some of that, the couple of fundamental traits around a terminal, overlay that with your meat quality, and we're looking far and wide for really good of those meat quality traits, especially IMF. And we've gone to Australia, and we're looking at where we can find those and get them in. We're doing some AI and trying to really speed up that process, because that'll unlock great opportunities, especially in the North Island. There's a lot of farmers don't want to change their maternal flock, but they'll be really happy to have a terminal. Over their BMOB use, and so that'll unlock a whole bunch more opportunities for us. So that's going to be a pretty exciting part of the program when we can get that going, and we're not far away. We're making some really good progress there, but it's only once a year, Ferg, and it always you just got to keep waiting. It's a frustrating part of the process.
Once a year, 30 times in your life. That's right.
I've done 17. There's not many left. I'm on the back end of it already.
That's right. Just getting good at it too. We've got to wrap up just on time, but there's the questions we like to ask everybody, and I didn't give you a lot of warning, but you have listened to the odd podcast, so I'm hoping you got something for me. But what's the last thing you changed your mind about?
Last thing I changed my mind about. That's a really good question. You have caught me on the hop, and I've been so focused on talking to you Oh, look, I think I think just back in our farming system is that probably the thing I've really changed my mind over the last wee while was how much better we need to feed our ewes during the winter. I think we've had these prescribed farming systems, especially in the deep south where we use a lot of crop. And what I've learned and what I've probably changed my mind on is we just need to feed our sheep if we want to extract the real value from them, and especially in the marketplace, we just need to feed them so much better. And so that's probably been a real probably turning point for me over the last few years, and certainly changed my mind on how we run our farm system and how our farm systems are going to look from especially wintering and into the future. I think we're going to see constant change there, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. So just quickly delving into that, that's how have you gone about that? Is that reduced stocking rate? So we'll put more crop in, or
and it's using crop at different times. Yeah. So I've got a great team actually. I mean, I'm not on farm that often, so I've got a great team that do a lot of that work. And we're using some kale through the autumn to mate on. We're just starting into that now, so that hopefully we can push more grass into the winter.
Yeah.
And using different crops that we can get better growth on the different mobs on the farm.
Yeah.
So it's trying to get a bit more refined in how we're running our wintering system. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't get it right, and it's a learning. But I think there's a lot of change going on in there, and there's a real realization. You see it in the dairy sector. I mean, the fundamental of growing out a great heifer to get really good lifetime performance. And I just don't think we've nailed that as well as we could in our sheep systems. And so, how we're feeding our animals and unlocking the full genetic potential, I think it's one of the big outcomes.
Yeah, cool. Good. Excellent. And quickly, well, not quickly necessarily, but finally, who's the best human you've had the pleasure to learn from? And I'm not very good at having one, so you can name more than one if you want.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, if I stick with the genetic theme, if I go back to the start of the Headwaters when we took on the elite flock, I had no genetic background. I'd never run a genetics program, never been involved, and just saw it as a great opportunity to which hope you're going to really drive better performance at Stag Valley, and was really lucky. I think there were 3 key people in the early days that had massive influence on us, and Amy Charteris, who was our geneticist at the start of the program, Andy Ramsden, who started it, and Errol Holgate, who was one of the founding guys behind Texel flocks, and we used his Texel. And they were, they were just really forward-thinking, knew they had to change the industry, knew we had to develop genetics that could deliver far better returns to farmers, and had a massive influence on me and probably other members of the team and other Headwaters farmers. Those 3 really had a vision for the future, and I guess that that gave us the opportunity to build the business off their vision, really. But between all 3 of them, they brought so much a wealth of knowledge, and I was so lucky to have them coming on to Stag Valley in the early days to do a lot of the selection work and just learned a huge amount from those 3.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, you got done a fair bit for industry between them.
Yeah.
Excellent, Simon. Won't keep you any longer, but really appreciated that chat, and great to learn a bit more about the history and current of Headwaters. And all the best for going to Million Lambs or however high the hairy audacious targets are. Yeah,
audacious targets. We love them. Absolutely. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Ferg. Great to chat.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks again to Heinegger, who are proud world leaders in the manufacturing and supply of professional sheep shearing and clipping equipment. Thank you to MNSD Animal Health and Norflex Livestock Intelligence. They offer an extensive livestock product portfolio focused on animal health management, all backed up by exceptional service. We thank both of these companies for their ongoing support of the Head Shepherd podcast.